the Good Samaritan. This story reminds us that being a neighbor is about what you actually do for a person in need. What about what we are thinking we should be doing, but actually what we do? Today's forum is about giving you some visibility of what hypothermia is and what we can do to help people in need for these winter months. We all know that around Northern Virginia it can get pretty cold in the winter. You will hear from a few speakers that will explain some of the challenges and difficulties faced by this community in need, as well as what the cold can do to your body. Imagine yourself being outside in a wet, cold day, and then having to sleep outside in the same cold gear. I remember being a kid, and sometimes we used to go play in the snow, right? You play in the snow, you have fun, and at the end of the afternoon, you're all wet and cold, and so you get home and get some nice warm cocoa, and that feels nice. But imagine if you're wet and cold and you cannot change, and you have to sleep in that same wet and cold gear in frigid temperature. I don't think that's really nice. Lastly, we hope to inspire, create some interest for people to get involved in this ministry. We are especially looking for people to open their hearts to assist this ministry going forward. If you're interested, have a question about how you can help, please feel free to ask me or any of the hypothermia team prevention current leader. So we have Mary Connor, we have Dave Tysons up here, or you can ask Deb Google or Jane Holdorf. Any of those people will be able to assist you. So again, thank you for being here, and I'm going to pass the torch to Mary that will give you a quick overview of the outreach program ministry here at ELC. No, it's okay. keep your claps for the end.
Thank you. I'm going to stand over here, though, so I can stand up. This is on. Yep. So I'm going to just speak for exactly 5 minutes. That's all I have. So I'm going to talk really fast. So if any of you read the weekly evangel that comes out on Friday afternoon, you certainly know that there is no shortage of volunteer opportunities here at Emmanuel, both internally and externally, right? And externally, our support is pretty much geared towards two organizations. First one, of course, is the Lamb Center, which you'll hear more about from Dave today and from Judy. And those of you that don't know much about the Lamb Center or new to it, is a drop-in day center located in Fairfax off of Campbell Drive. And Emmanuel's been supporting the Lamb Center for eons, long before I got here. And we do it in a wide variety of ways, right? We provide breakfast, we do Bible study, we do lunches, we deep clean the kitchen when we need it. And one of the things that we really do is, and we do it really well, is laundry, right? We have every Saturday morning, we have a cadre of people in this congregation that go down to the Lamb Center and do laundry, right? So imagine being unhoused, carrying your clothing around with you every day in a bag. Or worse, being unhoused, living in the woods, wearing most of your clothing because it's winter. When I was, now I'm going to digress, when I was a youngster 100 years ago, my brothers and I, every Saturday morning, would load up a pillowcase with our laundry, walk down 5 flights of stairs, walk a block and a half to what they used to call a laundromat. If we were lucky and the machines were empty, we could start our laundry, do the drying, fold it up, and be out of there in less than 2 hours, right? Today, I walk 10 steps from my bedroom to my laundry room. And these people that are unhoused and live out in the woods have no way to get their clothes clean except for the volunteers of this church that go there every Saturday morning. And they don't leave there until the last load of laundry is done. I think kudos to those people. I'm not one of them because I don't think I like laundry since I used to have to lug it down 5 flights of stairs, right? But imagine what would those people do if they didn't have these volunteers. The second organization that we support very heavily is Facets. And that is a larger organization, it's part of Fairfax County. And it has a very large presence in Alexandria, Annandale, Falls Church, and then close by in Fairfax for us. You support Facets every single time you bring a bag of groceries in for Thanksgiving, you buy school supplies, you take a star off the star tree that I might remind you is going up in 10 days. Last Christmas, this congregation gave a little over $6,000 in Christmas gifts to Facets. And that's nothing to sneeze at, considering you bought all the Christmas gifts for your own families. $6,000 is quite impressive. One of the other ways that we support Facets, of course, is Hot Meals, right? Hot Meals has been going on for eons here, right? I'm here 21 years. It was here long before I got here. We support that via our spending plan. So we have a line item, and we have dedicated people in this congregation that keep us within that budget. We buy the meals, we buy the food, we have volunteers that package them, we have volunteers that deliver them, we have volunteers that take care of the ordering. Twice a month, we do this. To date, we've done 3,500 meals this year and almost 300 volunteer hours just on that ministry alone. You know, when I thank people in this congregation for doing things like that, I'll go up to them and I'll say, "Thank you for doing blank." And they'll say, "Oh, it's nothing, I love to bake." "Thank you for doing blank." "Oh, I love to work in the kitchen. That's my favorite place." "Thank you." "Thank you for doing blank." "Mary, it was nothing." You know, and I think about that, and that is a reoccurring theme that I've been hearing for the last year and a half that I've been doing this ministry, in this role. And when I think about that, I'm thinking, no, it's more than nothing, because if it wasn't for all these things that people are doing, right, these ministries wouldn't be supported here in this congregation. And I have to stop and give a shout out to the youth of the congregation, because the youth of this congregation has been contributing by packaging our non-perishable meals, by bagging popcorn and things when we had our work day a couple of months ago. Those are all things that support Facets or support the Lamb Center in some way. So shout out to you guys for doing that for us whenever we need it. But the point being that all of these things do add up to something, right? And now, as we're getting towards our biggest endeavor yet, which is hypothermia, right? And the hypothermia, the one we're talking about, is a hypothermia week between the 5th of January and the 12th of January. It's where we need the people to come and do just the little thing that you like to do, or just the one thing that you think really isn't that much, and it's not an issue. So I guess what I want to say is, you know, last year it took 143 volunteers to pull off our designated hypothermia week, right? Open the doors and make the guests feel comfortable when they come in. Not just open the doors and take them in from the cold, but actually open the doors and talk to them and feed them and show them that you care. 143 people contributed in some way, shape, or form, and over 950 hours from the start of the hypothermia program to the very end of the hypothermia program in April. So I guess I want to close and just say, you know, think about today, think about how you can contribute. No matter how small it is, it's something. And I'd like to ask you to think about the coming weeks when you hear more about hypothermia, volunteering, where you can fill in a gap, where Jane or Deb talk about a need for something and think about whether or not you can help. And I think on that long note, which I'm sure I went over 5 minutes, I'm going to pass it off to Jen to talk a little bit more about hypothermia.
Oh, I'm not a big fan of the microphone. My involvement started about 10 years ago, sitting in a foreign, just like you are today. And I heard the call that we needed volunteers for hypothermia, and I thought, I can do that. I am a stay-at-home mom. I can stay up during the night. I can walk around the church and do the fire safety walks, and I can sleep during the day and be ready when the kids get home from school. So that's how I started my journey. I did that for a couple years, and Dave said, hey, Jen, by the way, we could use someone to help doing laundry. So my family signed up. We did the late shift laundry after, I don't think we have it anymore, but after the Lamb Center closed, I would go with my kids. They were in elementary school. We would order pizza, we'd play board games, and we would stay until all that laundry was done. And I tell you, in the winter, it takes multiple times in the dryer for the laundry to dry. So we would just sit until it was done. And on Monday, when everyone comes in, I can tell you that they are so happy to have their fresh washed clothes. Then Dave said, hey, Jen. This is Dave, by the way, if you don't know Deacon Dave. I think everybody does at this point because this is Dave's church, according to all the guests that we have. Dave said, we have a laundry shift on Mondays. Can you come on, I'm sorry, not laundry, kitchen. We have lunch shift on Mondays. We need someone to serve lunch on Mondays. So I said, okay, Dave, sure, I'll be there on Mondays. So I started on the Monday lunch team. And after a while, I thought, well, I have a degree in social work. I think my skills could probably be utilized elsewhere. So I started volunteering 3 days a week as a case manager at the Lamb Center. And about a year and a half ago, they said, okay, well, we need an intake coordinator. Would you consider coming on the staff? And so I said, okay, sure. So we created a new position. All right, that's my journey to today. So today I am currently the intake coordinator at the Lamb Center. And what does that mean? It means that I meet with every new person who walks through the doors of the Lamb Center. We see 1,900 last year unique clients who walk through our doors. Every day I see about 4 to 5 people who are brand new walking in that day. And my job is just to hold space with them. I learn about their story. We go really deep. We cry a lot together. We talk about, what happened, what circumstances came to this point where you're walking in here today. It takes a lot of courage to walk through that door and ask for help. For some of our clients, they've been homeless for maybe 20 years, and for some, it's their very first day walking in that door, their very first night where they don't know where they're going to sleep. And the hardest part of my job is when I have to say, there's nowhere for you to sleep tonight. Because the truth is that we have 3 shelters in Fairfax County. We have one in Reston, one in Falls Church, and one in Alexandria. But we do not have a shelter that services the area that we are in. Burke, Springfield, Centerville, Chantilly. There is no shelter down in our area. And so for our clients, the best I can offer is a sleeping bag and a tent, which we do not even do as of Friday because it's now too cold to be able to provide that. And so we have to encourage people to go into the overnight shelters. There is a 90-day wait in Fairfax County to get a shelter bed. The process that I do with our clients when they come in is we make a phone call, we do an assessment, they get on a waiting list. When a bed opens, 3 people get called for that bed, and the first person to return that phone call gets the bed that night. Many of my clients do not have a phone, and will not have a phone because the Affordable Connectivity Program is now ended. So there is no way for them to have a phone, so there is no way to make that return phone call. Sometimes I'll give them my cell phone number, and if they're still at the Lamb Center when that phone call comes, and I can get them connected. But most of the time we close, the Lamb Center is a drop-in center. We close at 3 o'clock, so if that call comes after 3 o'clock, there's no way for me to connect them into a shelter bed for that night. Right now, as of Friday, these shelters are open for emergency overflow, so there is a place to go in, but that is why our hypothermia program here is so absolutely critical to our guests, because there is not space for them, and they do not have a place to sleep at night. And so when we provide that, we're giving someone a safe place. I wanted to share a story about a client who came in last year, and I asked his permission, which he did. He came to me last year because his family had learned that he is gay. He is a middle-aged man. He has never shared that with his family. He had been living with his family, and when they found out, they kicked him out of the house. He had never been homeless in his life. That was his very first night, and he walked around on the streets, and he actually collapsed. He almost died of hypothermia that night. And 7-Eleven let him come in. They got him into the hospital, and they let him start sleeping there on their floor in the 7-Eleven for several months. And then one of the community members brought him into me. And I can't tell you how many times I've had community members bring guests into my office. It is extremely helpful if you see someone to offer to walk in that door with them. Like I said, it can be very intimidating the first time you walk in that door for so many different reasons. Some clients have a hard time being in a space with lots of people. They have trust issues because in the past they haven't gotten the services that they need. And again, sometimes pride. Pride can be a big barrier to wanting to ask for help. And so he came into me, and we were able to get him the help that he needed. He was able to get employment again. He was able to find a place actually to rent on his own. And the county recently hired him to be an advisor to them for some of their programming. So it's a really great success story, but it started with almost dying from hypothermia last winter. So this program, I cannot say enough about how vital this program is to the clients that we serve and the people that we serve. These are people, they are humans, they all have different backgrounds, they all have different stories. The only commonality they share is that they are currently unhoused. That is just one piece of their story. And so I thank you all for being here, for caring about this. I thank our church for being so passionate about this for so many years and so dedicated to the people that we serve.
Hi, I'm Judy.
I should have introduced you. You want me to introduce you?
No, I'm Judy. You got my heart, Miss Jen. I was homeless for 5.5, 6 years. Deacon Dave has known me probably, going on 20 years? I don't even remember going into the Lamb Center. I know I was a mess. I remember. You can tell this story, kind sir. Talking about hypothermia, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's really bad. And what Miss Jen was saying, there is nowhere to go. There isn't. Sure, call me a shelter. You won't get in. The phone call, it might come. If you miss that call, they go right down the next list. I mean, and then to get to that shelter, that's a whole nother issue. I mean, yeah, if I'm in Fairfax and Embry Rucker might have a space on the floor, how do you get there? You go, beg? It's humiliating. Somehow you've already lost every ounce of dignity in your body, just being homeless. My father died, my hero died, and it spiraled me down into a world of depression I've never felt. Had a beautiful home in Vienna, went to Madison High School. I actually grew up and shared the same fence with Emmanuel Lutheran Church. Walked this parking lot to Madison High School every day. I'm just saying, I don't even know where to go with it, but not having clothes and then being in a tent when it rains, all your clothes are destroyed. They're wet. Then you have to walk around with them. And then you get sick of walking around with them, you hide them, and then they're stolen. I don't even know. It's just horrific. If you're a female and you're going through that time of the month, an old sock? I mean, that's pretty degrading. Where do you go to the bathroom? Over a log. You have no toilet paper. It's so absolutely humiliating. And I'm a strong-willed human, but I had no hope, faith, understanding on how to crawl my way back out of there. I had no idea. So what you do is you forget that you're this person, that you're in this horrific kind of world that kind of is collapsing around you. And, trying to get help or trying to sit in a warm stairwell just for 5 minutes, the police come, get out, you homeless, whatever they call you. I can't thank hypothermia enough for saving my life. I was in there 4 winters. The Lamb Center, my Lamb fam is what I call them, my Lamb fam, has helped me in so many ways. I'm allowed to have my dignity back. I'm allowed to make those mistakes. My relationship with God is actually existent. I mean, I hated God. Why was God doing this to me and other people? It's all within yourself, and it's a huge process. I'm no longer on drugs. I've been clean almost, 4 years, 16 days, and 12 hours. I'm not even sure at this point. I have come back as a volunteer now at the Lamb Center, which I'm extremely proud of. I do the laundry. And to get a shower, and to put clothes on that are actually clean, that a raccoon hasn't pissed on or someone threw up on or a mudslide came down, whatever the issue, is that little ounce of dignity to actually do something more positive for yourself. And taking those little baby steps, you'll finally get to a place where, all right, I can do this. I'm a little bit stronger. People like Miss Jen and Deacon Dave, Miss Patty, the love of, beautiful citizens encouraging you. I can't tell you, it's brought me back to feeling human and being a human. So thank you for everything, and I hope everyone does get involved with hypothermia because it saves lives. It really does. Thank you.
My name is Deacon Dave, and this is my church. And I remember the day that Judy came into Lamb Center, the first day, but I also know every Tuesday Judy comes in, and she's a laundry volunteer with an awesome crew working with her. And I was with Jen. I keep telling Jen before long she's going to be a full-time employee at the Lamb Center. But it was so good to hear today that Emmanuel is going to be doing hypothermia prevention on Christmas week, which is such a thing. Because 20 years ago, before I was a deacon, and I was just, believe it or not, a 48-year-old director of the Lamb Center, a 49-year-old director of the Lamb Center, a week and a half before Christmas in 2004, the temperature, I think, that week was down to, the real field temperature was 7 degrees at nighttime. There was a man, a 44-year-old man, Benita Merende. He was a day laborer. He was sleeping in the back of the mobile station on Little River Turnpike. Him and a friend were staying there because there was the heat was coming out of, during the day, heat was coming out of the vent at the service station. He slept there that night with his friend, and when he didn't wake up the next morning. He died of hypothermia just on December the 15th. And also there was a man, George Bud Dodd, who was on Beulah in the Fairfax County side of Alexandria. He was sleeping in an abandoned house. He was someone, his friends knew him. I mean, his family tried to get him into some kind of shelter, and because of, I'm not sure the whole situation with him. He's a 56-year-old man. I believe it was mental health issues. He would not do that. So he's sleeping that same week, about within a day, sleeping in this abandoned house in right off of Beulah Road. And they went to check on him the next morning. He had hypothermia. They got him to the hospital, and he died. So there were 2 men within days, just a week and a half before Christmas, who died of hypothermia. I didn't know their names before. I had to do some research. But I think their names are very important because of those 2 men. It touched the hearts of the people in Fairfax County. So after, that was right around Christmas, so right at the start of the year, they had meetings at the government center for nonprofits, for they had meetings just talking about what hypothermia is, who is vulnerable from hypothermia, someone suffering with mental health issues, with addictive disorders, there was no place for them to go. So, all these meetings talking about, what hypothermia is and also what to do about it. That initially, the Salvation Army decided that they would step up and just have shelter there at the Salvation Army. They don't want to do it all the time because where Salvation Army is, it's right by the country club, and they don't want their neighbors to think that they were opening a shelter. So it was temperature-based, and the county would have to declare an emergency, which is kind of chaotic. So they did that at first, and then the following year, 2005, the Facets took over the hypothermia prevention program. I just want to say that Jim Burgle was a director of Facets and just on the 4th of this month, Jim Burgle passed away with serious health issues. And so they took over the hypothermia prevention program because all the churches stepped up. So the first year they had that. I mean, well, they've done it every year since 2005. To have the hypothermia prevention program. It has saved so many lives. There's been a struggle as far as what to do about transportation. I know the first year they were Fast Tran was taking people to the churches from over by the courthouse and just trying to get to where the pickup was. You know, struggles with transportation. It has saved a lot of lives. The way they have it now, the last few years, is facets. When we close, if there's van transportation to the churches, our guests will stay there after closing until the van comes and picks them up. Facets has 2 people that stay there with them to make sure that they get to the shelter. It's still really difficult for people with addictive disorders and mental health issues. Recently, last year we had one of our guests who, I always assumed that she could keep warm because she had a whole grocery cart full of belongings. And she ended up at one point she was laying in the street. And so we got her the help that she needed. We found that in her grocery cart, everything was damaged. It was just water from rain that was in there. There was nothing she had in there to keep her safe. And, fortunately, she got the mental health that she needed, and she's no longer there. But in 2015, one of our guests, who had probably been here before, called German Frank, he was an alcoholic, and of all things, Freedom Bail Bonds was his payee. And so in 2015, he had been released from jail. He had money in his pocket. At that week, Holy Trinity in Falls Church was Lutheran congregation in Falls Church was a hypothermia shelter. There was a motel not too far from there. He went to the motel. He had money in his pocket, and he did not go in. And they had the last snowstorm of the year, and he died of hypothermia. That's the only death I know of since 20 years ago when this program started. But it's something that has really saved lives. That all guests have I think our guests really enjoy going to the churches, the hospitality they get. And I was just thinking, before this was my church, before I went to Emmanuel, we had a man who was released from the adult detention center. He got to the Lamb Center, and we were closing. And he was he really wanted to turn his life around. He had all these plans. And so he came to us, and I think that week Emmanuel had hypothermia prevention, but there was no van transportation. And I could just see him so disappointed. So John McPherson drove him to Emmanuel. And so he would not be out in the cold, and I saw that guy move forward. That being able to go to hypothermia made all the difference. And I've seen how our lives, the lives of our guests have really, they really enjoy it. You get good hospitality and good food. But anyway, I could go on. I don't want to go on.
I wanted to say something.
Okay.
I'm sorry. What Deacon Dave was saying about hospitality, you're out in the cold all day. Everything you have is frozen. You've been warm maybe 10 minutes when you're allowed to sit in McDonald's or hide in a bathroom and you put the hand warmer on and you get yourself warm. But going into hypothermia and you get to sit on a blanket, you get a great meal. People actually talk to you. They look in your eyeballs like, oh, cool. You get warm clothes. You get to play board games. Snowing outside, it actually feels like normality. And that was one of the greatest things. Like, we can't wait to just go and chill and just be relaxed and some guard down and feel like, I know it's your homeless friends, but we're all sitting here and we're all together, and it does bring a hospitality, I guess, that it's more than that. I mean, your heart is full for that night. I mean, it is a beautiful thing to feel.
So I think when we now have 2 weeks for hypothermia prevention, and just I encourage everyone to volunteer for that. They would really enjoy it. There have been a few times when I volunteered leading Bible study in that. Being the director of a Lamb Center, there was one point I walked into Emmanuel, and there was a guest who's not allowed to come into Lamb Center for various reasons. He said, "You can't come in, you're banned." But just remember those two gentlemen who died of hypothermia 20 years ago, and how what their lives, they lost their lives, but because of that, we have this whole wonderful program every winter to save lives.
So I would like a big thank you to Jen, Judy, and Dave for those testimonials. I think very important. So we have a little bit of time for questions. So if you guys have questions for the group, please feel free, raise your hands. We can bring the mic to you. Or if you have a big voice, you don't need a mic. So any questions around the audience? Don't be shy. I can come closer. Dave will close, yes. Oh, here you go.
How long did you say this program has been running for?
That's a good question, Dave. How long has the program been running for? How long? How many years?
Hypothermia prevention with the churches involved has been going since 2005. So it starts every year, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, it starts. There's one church that takes them for the week. Around January, they have two churches, but they call the Red and the Green Church. So it goes until the end of March. So every year since 2005, they've been going to different churches for the entire winter.
So Paul, you good in math? That's how many years? That's how many years? How many?
I think 23, 19.
19, yes.
So with the new commitment of an extra week that Facets is going to be supplying resources, what are the expectations and what are the dates for the 2 weeks that Emmanuel will be hosting?
Okay, so there are 2 weeks. So we at Emmanuel, we will take care of the week of January 4th to January 12th. This is our hypothermia week where we will provide facility plus all the volunteers to welcome guests, to provide the food, to serve the food. So this is really our week where that's where Mary was talking about. Last year we had 143 volunteers. Okay, so the week of Emmanuel will be January 4th to January 12th. Now, for the week of Christmas, which is 22nd to the 29th, right? The need is for our church to open its door, but all the volunteers will be provided by Facets. So we are not asking for the congregation to volunteer. There will be a few people that will be on call as point of contacts for emergencies, but basically it's opening our doors and making our church available.
So, yeah. So I'm going to, go ahead. No, go ahead, Jane. Yeah, I wanted to say, John, I'll give you 1 second. Give me 1 second. So there is something I want to say about that, though. So we're still kind of figuring out exactly how this is going to, oh, sorry about that. We're still trying to figure out exactly how that's going to work. So they're definitely going to staff this building for us and for those purposes. It won't be identical to what we do during January, right? So it won't be, there won't be a sign-up sheet for Bible study people, right? There won't be a sign-up sheet for people to, greet them at the door, et cetera. So we're still trying to work that out. In my mind, and again, this is only my mind, Ellen, I'm thinking that they're going to provide all the food, and all of the products, et cetera, supposedly, and we're still working with them on that. But it will be I don't want to say stripped-down version of January 5th, but it will be significantly reduced with regard to the presence or need of volunteers. That said, right, the idea is that they will, excuse my back, their idea is that they will provide all the food, right? But that will be basic. For example, breakfast won't be consisting of hot casseroles, right? It won't be, I don't know if they're going to do bag lunch, right? So that's something we'd have to work out with them because we provide some bag stuff and they take it with them when they go. We provide hot casseroles when you have your normal week, right? That's not stuff that I'm expecting that they're going to be doing. So is there opportunity to volunteer? I would say right now the answer is yes, and that way, shape, or form would be maybe you can provide bowls of fruit. They're not going to have fresh fruit. They're going to do most of this cooking in advance of the 22nd of December. Freeze those meals and then cook them as they need them.